Hey everybody, welcome to episode 15 of Cool Chords. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my all-time favorite Pink Floyd songs entitled Dogs. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so this is an incredible chord progression and an amazing song too. I would say it's probably the greatest 17-minute song of all time, which is hard to pull off, but Pink Floyd, is good when it comes to stuff like that. So we're going to be tuned a whole step down. So we have D, G, C, F, A, and D. So everything is technically in the key of D minor because we tuned down the whole step, but just for the sake of, being able to kind of visualize these chords and visualize the movements around them, I'm just going to refer to everything as if we're in the key of E minor because visually on the guitar, that's what it would look like, just so it's easier to, grasp the theory behind it and stuff. But technically we're in the key of D minor, but we'll speak as if we're in E minor. So the first chord that we start with, since we're in E minor, we're starting on the 1 chord, which is this E minor 9 voicing. Beautiful voicing. So open 6th string, 2nd fret with your pointer, 2nd fret with your middle, open 3rd string, pinky on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and then ring finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. So intervallically on the bottom we have the root, the 5th, the root again, and then the flatted 3rd, the flatted 7th, and the 9. So in terms of the actual strumming pattern, if you listen to it with headphones, there's 2 different patterns going on. There's 2 different guitars that are panned to the right and then the left, and they're both doing slightly different strumming patterns throughout, and there's not really like a consistent pattern that you can pick up on that just repeats for the entirety of the song. So like sometimes they go like this, where the notes are more ringy, but then they also have times where they do the mute in between instead. So the pattern that I'm doing is the one that uses the mutes in between. That seems to be a little bit more prevalent throughout the song, but like I said, there's not really a set one that's happening the entire time. But what I'm doing is this. I'm doing down, down, up, and then my palm is going to just do a little dead note on the strings. Not even intended to be loud. If you listen to the recording of me playing it, sometimes you can barely even hear it in between, but it's just to, get all of the strings to die out. And then you do the exact same pattern a second time. Down, down, up, dead note. So we have. And then all we do after that is down, up, dead note. So it's down, down, up, dead note, down, down, up, dead note, down, up, dead note. Okay? And each chord is going to do that strumming pattern 4 times. So. Okay, now this next chord that we're going to, here's where it starts to get really interesting. So what I would call this chord would be C major add 11. Reason why I would call it that is if you look at a C chord, right, and then take this E note on the 4th string and just raise it a half step to the F with your pinky. That's pretty much what this chord is. It's a C major chord, but in the middle of it, it has the F, which is the 4. So this is really unique because typically when we have the 4 in a chord, it's typically a suspended chord, but in this case we have the 4 and we have the 3rd, which creates this really unique sound. And if we're looking at that in relation to the first chord, which is E minor, right, the key that we're in, the one note that's kind of like the odd man out in this chord is this F right here, right? So typically a half step above the root, and if we're in the key of E, right, then the F would make it Phrygian now, right? So now it's like minor with a flatted second instead of a regular second. So we start out in just regular natural minor, and then we go to Phrygian, right? And in terms of how to view this with the Roman numerals, I guess technically people would call it the flat 6 chord, but it's weird because of this 4. I'm not exactly sure how to clearly define it, but the way that I kind of hear it is that I hear it more as like an F2 chord with the major 7 and then the 5 in the bass. So, you know, this is very tedious and very kind of nitpicky with the names of the chords, but when I'm hearing those first 2 chords, and then the vocal melody right there, when we get to that second chord, he's hanging on like G, E, and A. And that kind of, to me, sounds like an F. You know what I mean? It kind of has like that half-step sound to me. Like going from E minor to F major. So in terms of Roman numerals, to me, to my ear, this is functioning as kind of like a flat 2 chord, right? An F chord, but it has the 5th in the bass. But I think that's up for debate. I've watched a couple of other videos on this, and everybody kind of has a different way of interpreting this chord. So let me know your thoughts on what you think of that. But, you know, like I said, when I'm hearing it, I'm hearing that half-step movement from E to F. So now we have... All right, now this next chord is really cool. So from the 4th string down, it's your ring finger on 4, pinky on 4, pointer finger on 2, and then the open 1st string. This is an F sharp 7 sus, so it'd be like an F sharp dominant 7 chord, but instead of playing the 3rd, we raise it to the 4. So intervallically, we have 1, 4, 5, flat 7. Now this is also interesting because if we look at that in relation to the key, right, E minor, typically when you're in a minor key, the 2 chord is minor 7 flat 5, right? In traditional classical and jazz harmony and stuff like that. But in this case, we're playing a dominant 7 sus off of the 2 chord. Now, to get further context of what's going on, we can look at the notes in the vocal melody as well, and that's eyes closed, they're moving in silently down in and out of sight. So that's really interesting because if you look at all those notes he's using there, it basically looks like a B major arpeggio with the 9. Right? So the vocal melody is kind of like hinting at B major, but the chord we're playing is this F sharp 7 sus. So it's interesting because we're in E minor. If we look at these notes, right, those notes can technically be considered part of E melodic minor, right? Because we have every note occurs in E melodic minor. We're not really defining a 3rd, right? There's no G note in the melody, but in terms of kind of just seeing how it can relate back to the original key of E minor, right? Kind of like doing a melody around melodic minor while we're playing a dominant 7 sus chord off of the 2. So far within the first 3 chords, the harmonic movement I'm hearing would be 1, flat 2, and then natural 2, 7 dominant sus, right? And if you notice, with the 2nd, 3rd, and the 4th chord that we're going to go to, this E note is on top of all 3 of those chords. So that's called a common tone. So that's why, right, we have this, then we have, right? You hear that E being consistent throughout all of these chords, which is cool, with the exception of the 1st chord. So that's called a common tone. And now the last chord, all we do is this. We take the exact same shape we have, just slide it down a fret. So now it's 3, 3, 1, open. Now that is a really colorful chord. That one really kind of, to me, just completes the progression perfectly because it's really mysterious, ends on kind of a nice, you know, dark, mysterious note, and then brings it back to the top. So this chord, in the bass guitar is playing a B flat. So in terms of looking at it against B flat, we would call this a B flat 2 sharp 11 because we have the 5, the root, the 2, and then the sharp 11. So kind of a very specific voicing. But because we see the sharp 11 there, it's pretty safe to assume that it's going to be a Lydian, tonality, which makes sense because, right, when they turn their backs on you, right, he's playing all the notes around B flat Lydian, right? And that's not an uncommon thing to do, right? If we look at that against E minor, right, E minor is the 1 chord, and then B flat Lydian would be like you're thinking Lydian over the flat 5, right? Because E and then B flat is flat 5. That gives you a nice mysterious, right? Or you could do something like this, do like an E minor chord, then do a C major chord, and then keep the C on top, but switch the bass from C to B flat, right? So it shows you that they're kind of closely related. It's really just that bass note that's giving it that extra tension. And you hear this in a lot of different kinds of music, like Ravel has a ballet called Daphnis and Chloe, and it's got this one part where it goes F minor 7, and then it does like a B, it's like F minor 7, sorry, to B major 7. Same exact thing, right? That tritone, starting on the tritone and doing Lydian. And the thing that I like about that is when you think of these chords, right? It starts here, right? That's the stable chord. Then it gets a little bit more tension, right? Then more tension. This one kind of almost sounds like it's still going somewhere though. And then finally, landing on that chord, I feel like it's like the perfect amount of tension, setting it up to go back to the top. So in terms of Roman numerals, we have the 1 chord, we have the flat 2 major chord, we have the 2 chord doing a dominant 7 sus, and then we have the flat 5 chord doing like a Lydian sound. So if we put the entire progression together with that strumming pattern, we get this. All right, so that is our song for this week. A lot of really cool, interesting movements going on, a lot of different ideas that you can try to incorporate into some of your own chord vocabulary. And yeah, I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to support the channel in any way, you can do so by going to the link in the description, the PayPal link, and donating, or you can just Venmo me directly. And anybody who donates, you can request a video that I will make for you. So if you have a song that has some cool chords that you'd like me to do for this series, I'd be happy to do that. Or it could be a lesson video, anything that you want. So if you would like to do that, I'd be happy to make a video for you. And yeah, I will see you guys at the next video. Thanks for watching.